right, everybody, welcome to WRUU LP Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings Community Radio with Global Soul. I'm your host, Adam Messer, and this is the Adam Messer Show. And our special guest today for the Halloween 2019 episode is none other than Joshua Vasquez from the Savannah Zombie Novel Series. Thank you, Josh, for being here today.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, I've been a big fan of yours since I first met you.
Yeah.
Like 5 years ago, something like that now?
Yeah, it's getting pretty close to it.
Yeah. I think you're actually writing about your zombie novel series was one of the first articles that I got to do.
Was it one of the first?
Yeah. Because I started writing in August of 2014.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember if I wrote about yours in like 2014 or 2015. But it was around that time frame. I just remember it being close to Halloween.
I think it was 2014.
Yeah.
I think I published the second book in the series in October 2014, so it had probably been around that time.
I think it was right around the same time you had a new book come out.
Yeah.
And Sebastian Messer is in the house today. Hey, Bass, how you doing? Yeah, his allergies are killing him today, so he's like, do you mind playing a little bit for us? Sebastian Messer, everybody, with his band's called Krieger. Awesome, Bass. Thank you so much. And Josh, since you've been here the last time, I actually have a little intro.
Oh, sweet.
Let me turn it on. I'm your host, Adam Messer, and I interview authors, artists, and entertainers. We discuss their process, how they overcome obstacles, and their creative works. I hope you enjoy the show. Yeah, so Ian McGinney is, I think I'm saying it right, Ian McGinty. He actually works over at Great Face Records, but he's a host here at the WRUU.
Okay.
And so he's the one that created that little loop. I wanted something that kind of sounded like industrial techno.
Sweet.
Yeah, so, yeah, man.
I think you, like, the last time I had on here was like some kind of like jazz
track
kind of deal.
Yeah, it was that, actually Dr. Dave was the one that helped me do that. So that was like the first one I ever had. So, Josh, can you, for the listeners at home, can you please kind of give people like a brief overview of who you are and what you do? Because there are a lot of people that move in and out of Savannah, and so there's probably a lot of people that still have not had the pleasure of knowing who you are yet.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I'll just try to keep it as brief as possible. My name is Josh Vasquez. I've lived here the majority of my life, so I consider Savannah home. So about 6 years ago, I first published my first book, the Savannah zombie novel. The title was A New Death, and originally just kind of published it, self-published, and I just did it. I was going to just put it on Amazon, put it on the Kindle library as kind of, like, I'm just going to put this out here. I wasn't really planning on it going anywhere, not doing anything with it really. Just a cool thing to do, one of those bucket list things. So anyways, I put it out there as an ebook and, started kind of getting reviews and people were buying it and stuff like that. So. And
your first book came out kind of like the heavy interest with the Walking Dead stuff.
Yeah. I want to say it was probably.
The show.
Yeah. I want to say it was probably around like season 2 or 3, I think, of The Walking Dead. So it's like when it was getting like really big.
Yeah, because the first season or so, people were like, "Oh wow," but then like season 2, 3, 4, a lot of people started watching it, and they started, like with your series, it's like zombie stuff kind of just
zombie stuff exploded for a while.
Yeah.
It was really big.
But you have been a fan of like zombie stuff since forever in a day.
Yeah, I was definitely a fan of zombie stuff before it was cool. And I don't say that to be like a zombie hipster, but
no, but it's like I love your little Genesis story though. You talk about when you were like 11, 12, 13.
Yeah.
I remember it was something like you came across like a VHS tape and you were watching. What was it? Night of the Living Dead?
It was the original Night of the Living Dead, black and white, the 1968 version. It was the middle of the day. I was home by myself. I don't remember why I was home by myself. I was 13. And honestly, if just being honest about it, I saw that it was unrated. So like I knew that there was a chance, maybe like see some stuff in an unrated movie.
Yeah, of course, being a 13-year-old boy, that makes sense.
13-year-old boy. But yeah, it ended up being like one of the scariest movies I've ever seen. Just
changed your life.
Yeah, I just was not prepared for that.
You're thinking you're going to see, a little action, and then you're like, oh, wow, I really like zombies.
Yeah, no, these people are eating other people, so...
I do want to give a couple shout-outs here while we're chit-chatting. Brian Ralph, I met him yesterday over at Odin & Sons for Halloween Comic Book Fest or Halloween Comic Fest. And he's a professor at SCAD University. And I picked up a signed autographed, and he actually drew a little illustration for me.
Yeah. That's super cool.
But yeah, Daybreak is his, it's been around for about 10 years or so. And news to me, it's actually on Netflix.
Yeah, I think it just came out on Netflix because I feel like I saw the preview for it the first time just the other day, Friday maybe.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
I picked it up because I went to Neighborhood Comics, and Raymond over there had recommended it.
Yeah.
Because I like, I'm a big supporter of indie authors and artists and stuff. And I'm always looking, for new indie stuff or whatever. So I got a copy of that. And also I want to give a shout out to one of our co-hosts. His name is Michael Matheny. I think I'm saying that last name right. I'm sorry if I'm not, Matthew. But he has a show on Friday nights, and he's doing his big Halloween thing this Friday. So like Halloween's on Thursday this year.
Yeah. But
a lot of people are celebrating like Halloween stuff kind of like Thursday and Friday, Saturday.
Yeah.
So his thing is it says, "Welcome to my nightmare. Grab your crucifix, lock your doors, and turn on the lights. I am doing a 2-hour show Friday, November the 1st from 3 to 5 p.m. It will be creepy, scary, and with horror movie excerpts, movie-themed songs, excerpts from TV shows like Twilight Zone, Alfred Hitchcock, etc., and creepy Halloween rock. No Thriller or Ghostbusters, though. Aw. You are cordially invited," he says. So that's this Friday, November the 1st from 3 to 5 p.m. That's his big Halloween show. So I just want to give him a shout out too, because I don't think he actually has a Facebook page or anything like that.
Yeah. But
we have like a program host page where we talk, kind of like, hey man, this is what I've got going on, blah, blah, blah. And I always share like my info about who I've got coming on. And so shout out to you, Michael. So tune in this Friday, y'all. Cool. So let's talk about your podcast.
Okay.
And
let's talk about it.
Yeah. So you have the Savannah Zombie podcast.
Yeah, I really like to branch out my branding. So pretty much everything I do is just like Savannah Zombie something.
Hey, I have taken that straight out of your book. Like Blood Thresher, The Devil's in the Metal.
Yeah.
That's my series. And I'm calling it the Savannah Vampire Novel Series.
Yeah.
Due to you. Thanks to you.
Yeah.
Because I took a page right out of your book. And this year I have
don't feel too bad about it, because I definitely like ripped that off of somebody else too.
Oh yeah. I mean, like there's like 13 original stories, or maybe even 7 or something like that. But so yeah, this year I've been streamlining my stuff. I've been doing like it used to be the Muses, Memoirs, and More show, and you could still call it that. But I'm calling it the Adam Messer Show.
Yeah.
Just like with the Savannah Quill Publishing House. The event this year is going to be called the Savannah Authors Expo.
Mm-hmm.
So you have your Savannah Zombie podcast, And that is really kind of like an extension of your creative stuff. You talk a lot about like video games and movies and stuff like that. So
it's pretty much whatever I just feel like talking about.
yeah. Well, that's the cool thing about having your own podcast. You can talk about whatever you want.
Well, honestly, it's kind of my answer to like blogging.
Yeah.
Because like for a long time, I felt like as a writer, like you got to have a blog, connect with your readers, and do all this other writing as opposed to the stuff you're supposed to be working on. And it was just one of those things. I was just never good at keeping up with it, and like it would be like months.
It's a lot of diligence.
Yeah. And it's just, as much as I enjoyed writing and I enjoy writing blog posts, it was like I just didn't have the time for it.
Yeah.
You know,
you have a new baby.
Yeah, I got a new baby.
You have another new baby that's just a couple years old.
Yeah.
You and your wife are like busy.
Yeah.
So you changed jobs. You moved.
A lot of stuff going on in Josh's life.
Yeah. But, and I can't believe you had the time to peel away to get over here today.
Yeah, definitely.
So I appreciate you coming over.
Oh no, it was good.
And I totally get, like, I listen to your show usually on my way into work, and you're always talking about how you're either recording it on the way to work or like the one the other day was like, oh, you're getting the tired Josh because I'm recording after work. I am totally there, man. Like that is how I am able to do different things. I try to listen to audio stuff in the way in the morning, and then like I was really big into recording the podcast when I was doing it on Anchor.
Yeah.
Now that I'm doing it on Libsyn, I've been just doing the weekly show.
Yeah.
But I totally get that. I mean, like I listened to your 6th anniversary show.
Yeah.
For the Savannah Zombie thing.
Yeah.
Man, you were like blowing me up on the shout outs. I was like, oh my gosh, Josh, you're killing me, man. I love it. Thank you.
I mean, you were kind of like instrumental in the whole like process and all that. You were my first newspaper article.
You know, that touched me. Yeah. Like when you were like, I've got it framed, I was like, oh no, this is so awesome. Because I remember we were talking and we just hit it off. Mm-hmm. You know, that first interview, and then we became friends, and next thing you know, I was like, hey man, I'm doing this thing, the Savannah Quill.
Yeah.
In like 2016, and I was like, I was like, you want to be part of this? And you're like, yeah, and then it got blown out for the hurricane, and then we did a couple of different author events and stuff like that, and 2017 was the first convention, and so like you had a lot of stuff that you've been part of that. You've been part of the Books of Brews. Mm-hmm. You're like, to me, you're always like one of the go-to guys that you always are willing to be part of, the literacy events that we're doing around town.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I really like about, you being involved, because, you got a good personality and you got a cool storyline that you got going on.
Thanks.
So.
Yeah. It's definitely, I mean, like I said, we hit off with that first newspaper article, and then from there we pretty much just collaborated like the the rest of the time and all that. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Tell me about the third book. You got the draft done, right?
Yeah, so first draft is done. I'm in the editing process right now. I've got like the last couple of chapters to finish editing. Then I'll go back from there and like do a second draft, and then after that I'll kind of finish it up. There's a few more chapters I actually have to write for this book, just because I wanted to make sure everything was gonna match up by the time I get to the end. There was like some stuff that I knew that's gonna happen in the end of the story that I'm like, let me go back and make sure everything is all working towards that point and stuff like that. So.
Okay, and this is the anticipated third book.
Yeah, and you say anticipated only because I've been like talking about publishing this third book for like years now.
No, I'm saying because like you have a following of people that like your stuff. I'm one of them, and I know that people have been asking about it because you talk about people have been asking about it, and so like getting the draft done, that's a huge step. Mm-hmm. And then, working on the editing and stuff like that. Yeah. So it's a lot closer to being published than it was maybe a year ago.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I've had the story done for this book, like probably done for over a year. It's just getting the actual time to sit down and write it.
Yeah.
And then like the issue for me is like when I do get that chance to sit back down and get into writer mode, it's like I have to remember where I left off. Like, all right, what were the characters doing? So then I got to go back and reread so much of it to get back into my own story. But yeah, so like I have like actually honestly, book 3, the story that I had planned out for it is actually going to be book 3 and book 4 now.
Nice.
And then just kind of knowing where that story ends, I feel like there might be a 5th one in there. So yeah, we'll kind of see how it goes. I'm just trying to get this third, this third one out.
Hey, I'm telling you, y'all are listening to WRUU LP Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings Community Radio with Global Soul. You're tuning in. If you're just now tuning in, this is the Adam Messer Show, and I'm your host, Adam Messer, and my special guest today is Josh Vasquez. It's from the Savannah Zombie novel series.
That's me.
Yeah. So yeah, since this last year or so, I've been spending just kind of learning my craft, and I know when we were on I don't know, it was like the middle of last year, we were talking, and I really was like, oh, I don't really like editing.
Yeah.
You know, I have learned to love editing.
Yeah. What's changed about it for you?
I'll be honest with you. It's because of several of the books that I've read.
Which are?
Stephen King's On Writing.
Yeah.
And then one of the biggest influential ones that I've read this year was Jessica Brody's Save the Cat Writes a Novel. And I'd read Blake Snyder's Save the Cat, which was the original several years ago. And he talks about the 15 beats. He kind of established in a book format. Like, it's been around for a while, but he established in a book format the 15 beats thing. And just knowing that process, and then what really turned me on to loving editing at this point is just recent.
Yeah.
You know, this anthology that I'm in, working with Rachel Brune, just working with her. I'm used to editing for like newspaper stuff, like, you know, the journalism stuff. I'm used to, you know, editing with that and working with an editor. Fiction stuff, I was just doing it on my own, you know, and now I'm like, okay, well, let's get the draft done. Like Jessica Brody, when I talked to her, she was talking about the first draft, just like really your discovery draft. You're kind of just telling it for yourself.
Yeah.
And then the second draft and so on is like, okay, well, how do we hone this? How do we make this a better story? Because sometimes it comes out, you know, it's like in your head one way. Yeah. It comes out on paper a different way. And then you have to edit it so it comes back around to kind of what was in your head. Yeah. Like the scene you saw in your head. And that's what's changed for me. So, and I know you were like really big into the editing process.
Yeah, I like taking things apart and putting them back together to begin with, like just playing with like Legos and Connects growing up and all that. So like this is just the literary form of that. So like it's just, I don't know, it's fun for me, and I like taking the different pieces of the story and then like, well, what if this piece goes here? What if I change this with this? And then kind of Frankenstein in the whole thing.
I think it's great, man. I was excited to be part of this anthology with her. It just came out of the stories we tell after midnight, and it opened my eyes up, you know, to working with a fiction editor. Being part of a collaboration where there's multiple authors, you know, in this anthology or whatever, and it inspired me because, you know, we talked a couple years ago about I wanted to do like a sci-fi anthology, you know, that's been one of my goals for a couple of years now. And so I was like, okay, how do I do this? Well, I don't know enough sci-fi authors, but I do know enough horror authors. So you're actually going to be part of the Savannah Cool Publishing first anthology in next, you know, 2020. Next year. So I think it's going to be really cool. You know, it'll be the first time that I've worked as a fiction editor besides editing for myself. And so I'm looking forward to, you know, reading what you got, you know, on the back burner there for that. Yeah, like as soon as you sent me like that you wanted to do that, I was like, I know exactly what I want to do for that. Especially with the topic that it has. Which is kind of like what was it, giving the devil his due and kind of making a bad deal with a demonic force, and I was like, so having to pay up. The idea that I have, I was thinking about it the other day.
as kind of like a short film kind of thing.
Yeah.
But like I barely have time to do writing. When am I gonna have time to actually make like a short film? So then you kind of pitch this idea to me, and I was like, oh, you know what, that might be a good fit for that story.
And you know what we're gonna do too is we're gonna have the ebook and then we're gonna have the paperback. But I'm also going to get it made into a production of an audiobook.
Yeah.
So that's going to be, even though it won't be a movie, like a film thing or whatever, it's still going to have an audiobook as an anthology collaboration.
Yeah. I love audiobooks.
Oh, I do. I love it. It's one of my favorite. I think I used to not be into audiobooks, man.
Yeah.
I used to not listen to audiobooks at all. And a friend of mine named Chris, he turned me on to it because it was like, a lot of times you can hear it in the author's voice. And I was like, what? And then sometimes they sidebar and they kind of give you like little background tidbits of, well, hey, this is what was going on. And
yeah.
So pretty excited about it, man. I mean, it's like, I know you got a lot on your plate, but I was like super happy to have you say yes to this new anthology.
Yeah.
And, I want to talk about the quill a little bit more because that's been part of the evolution this year for me too. We started the quill in 2016. I started as I wanted to build a community of writers.
Yeah.
And just get to know more writers and stuff like that. And did the convention. And let's see, the first year we had like 100 people over at National Guard Armory. I think for the day. It was a nice little turnout. It was a cool venue, but it was really hot.
Yeah,
it was uncomfortable.
Yeah, and I think we had a really good turnout, especially for the location, which it's not like somewhere you would just like stumble into. Like you kind of had to know it was there.
Yeah.
But like to have the kind of turnout that we did that year it was really good.
Yeah. And then last year, I changed the venue. We went to the Cottonwood Suites, and nice venue, bad location.
Yeah.
We had like 30 people, I think, the whole day.
Really?
Yeah. And, that's not counting the 100 people that we had for the authors and their plus ones.
Yeah.
So
maybe that's why it seemed like more to me, because I was just going around talking to different authors and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Whenever we do those things, I'm never like a good, I guess, salesperson, because I never stay at my table.
I loved it, though. You said that you sold the most copies there ever, didn't you? That day?
I think so.
Yeah. I remember you telling me that, and I was like, at least there's a win today.
Yeah.
But it was a great spot. It was a great thing. But I was a little kind of had the wind knocked out of me.
Yeah.
I was like, oh man, it's hard to build something like that. And so this year I really haven't been pushing the Savannah Quill as much, but I still wanted to do something. So we've been doing the Books and Brews thing over at Southbound Brewing Company. And they're great. We're raising money for the Ronald McDonald House, and authors come out and they, meet and greet. And, we've had some decent little turnouts with that,
Yeah.
But I was still wanting to do, kind of just like some kind of author thing. And that's where the Savannah Authors Expo idea came from.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, well, I still want to do something, but it's going to have to be where, low or no cost.
Yeah.
Right. And definitely a better location. It has to be, something like that. And I talked to the folks at Savannah Coffee Roasters.
Yeah.
And so they said that they would sponsor us. And that's how that kind of came around.
Yeah. Which I think is going to be a great location.
Oh my God, it's so much better. I think, and I love the Cottonwood Suites. They were great to me. They were great folks, and they're very hospitable. It's just
we had a ton of space there too.
Oh yeah, I had the whole place.
Yeah,
I had the whole place for the day, but it's just really tucked back in the back, and you really have to. There's not foot traffic.
Yeah,
Savannah Coffee Roasters, lots of foot traffic.
Yeah,
a lot of people come by there, and I feel like it's going to be a good turnout with the group that we have. But it's going to be a free event.
Yeah,
open to the public.
It's a little bit more streamlined than a convention and all that. So
yeah, a little bit more intimate.
Yeah.
We're not going to have like traditional tables, set up like that. It's just going to be kind of more intimate. The authors can sell books and stuff like that. And we're going to have panels. We're going to have a horror panel.
Yeah.
And I can't wait because we're going to be talking about that. And we're going to have other panels talking about like poetry, and I think Alidria Hurt's going to head up one. It's called Black Speculative Fiction. which is kind of like an underserved population in the
Yeah.
spec fiction world, I guess. So we're gonna have that, and then some other stuff. But swinging back around to the Savannah Quill.
Yeah.
This is not public knowledge. I want to talk about it because like you're one of the main people that have been there since the day one. You know,
Mm-hmm.
the Savannah Quill Publishing House.
Yeah.
You remember that magazine we put together a couple years back? That ebook magazine.
Yeah. Yeah.
With the interviews and all that stuff. That was like the first thing
Yeah.
for the publishing thing. But I was like, I always had to explain what the Savannah Quill is, trying to figure out, like, what is this? And then I was like, okay, well, I like it for the little publishing stamp. Like, I like it for the name. The Savannah Authors Expo, it's pretty straightforward. You don't have to explain what it is. It's like, okay, well, it's an Authors Expo? Okay, it's going to be authors there. It's in Savannah. Yeah. Savannah Quill, it's like, what is that? When I say Savannah Quill Publishing House, makes sense.
Yeah.
So this is really like the fourth year doing these kind of events.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm pretty excited to have had you as part of that, the whole time.
Oh, definitely. It's been fun. I enjoy doing like all the different events, whether it's Books and Brews or Savannah Quill or even
I'm wearing my Books and Brews shirt
today. Either the Author Expo coming up. So, if there's coffee or if there's beer there, I'm down.
I know. Actually, they serve both and they serve food. So
really cool.
It's all inclusive. I have a lot of cool people out there. It's going to be...
Yeah. I've only been to Savannah Coffee Roasters a couple of times.
Yeah.
I've always enjoyed it when I have gone.
Yeah, they have great coffee.
Yeah.
They have really good food, and the Morrison room, I guess they recently renovated it. It's the room upstairs.
Yeah.
So it's set up like like a conference room, and it's right there, partitioned off. They have their own restrooms up there too. Okay. So it's all inclusive right there. That's cool. Yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. You are listening to WRULP Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings Community Radio with Global Soul. Okay, so this first half hour has been pretty much just like updates and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, hey, what have you been up to? And talking about the Quill and doing little shout outs and stuff like that.
Yeah, a little catching up.
yeah, a little catching up.
As much as me and Adam talk about each other, we actually don't see each other that much.
I know. It's crazy. It's crazy. But you did this episode. It was Tyson versus the zombie apocalypse.
Yeah.
Right? And we can't repeat this stuff because it's R-rated.
Yeah, definitely. No, it gets a little...
But tell the home viewers at home, the people playing at home.
Okay.
Josh, tell everybody at home what was Tyson versus the zombie apocalypse.
All right, so other than like the pilot episode and then the episodes where I did the audiobook versions of the CJ story, which is the short story in my series, this is the one that's obviously got like the most listens. It was a lot of fun to do. Tyson is a guy that I work with, and he's actually the one that trained me, or one of the guys that trained me for my current position.
Yeah.
And so we kind of...
tell a little bit more about his background, though.
His background?
Why he's such a...
Well, okay, so just...
a zombie-killing freak.
Yeah, well, he's like... I feel like he's probably like a good prime candidate for someone who would actually do a decent job at surviving the zombie apocalypse. He... was served in the Marine Corps, so he's got that background. He was a police officer, so he's definitely got training with firearms and just all the
tactical
things all the things that go along with that. And he's just honestly, he's just like, for me, like the relationship that me and him have, he was just really fun to pick on, kind of. And so I kind of pitched them this idea. I was like, hey, I'm doing this podcast, and I think it'd be really funny to do an episode with you on there, and we could just do like some, I don't know, it's like, let's just do like Tyson versus zombie apocalypse.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, yeah, he's like real excited about it. And so like unbeknownst to him at the time, like I was just like listening to all these different like Dungeons and Dragons podcasts. So like I was like in this super role play mode, and so basically part of our job training was like he had to like do like these role play situations for me to get me prepared for the job, and he just didn't want to do them. So I was like, I'm gonna trick him into doing some kind of role play, and so that's what Tyson versus the Zombie Apocalypse was. And so we did that, and we recorded this episode. And basically, it was just me putting him through these different situations and these different kind of things where, basically, just to see how he would survive. And it kind of started off as just like kind of individual, like different kind of things happening. But I began to kind of tie them together over the episode until it just became like one story.
Yeah, it's a huge amalgamation.
Yeah, and like I mean, it was pretty much like a role playing game, but without the dice. You did
a good job DMing that episode too.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun, and he has like very little like knowledge of zombie movies, games, whatnot. Like he's only ever seen World War Z. Which,
he thought that like everything was zombie was like related to World War Z.
Yeah, and I was like,
it was like that's kind of like a super crack type zombie.
That's not all of them are like that, but for your sake, we'll kind of
we'll go with that world.
Yeah,
we'll go with that universe.
But even over that episode, like I kind of slowed down the zombies a little bit too, just because like I feel like if
that is I mean like those zombies were like. They were like the Superman of zombie worlds.
Yeah, World War Z is I just don't think a good representation of how things would go down. Mm-hmm. Like in World War Z, like the whole point of it, like the movie's pretty different from the book. The book's really good. And the audiobook of that book is amazing because it's acted out by different voice actors for every chapter because it's a different perspective for every chapter deal.
Yeah.
But the movie, like with zombies moving as quickly and as deadly and as fast as that, like I don't think the government's going to be able to hold things together, or any kind of form of authority is going to be able to hold things together for any kind of duration of that
it's just
apocalypse.
Ultimate shutdown, like everybody's out for themselves type thing.
So we had to use kind of like the basic like World War Z rules to get Tyson acclimated into it, and it was funny because like at first he's like, well, first things I'm going to get my dog. I'm like, dude, isn't your dog like really, really, really old? And he's like, yeah, but I'm not leaving my dog. And I was like, all right, cool. So like I had him bring his dog along in the story, and she actually just passed away I think last week or the week before.
I'm sorry.
So yeah, he's still kind of dealing with that, and so he just basically kind of starts making these choices, and I'm like, all right, well, let's just kind of go with that. He wants to go find like an aircraft carrier, basically, or some kind of like military ship and get out in the water.
Mm-hmm. That was another one that you challenged him on that I thought was interesting because it's like if you're on an aircraft carrier, for example, it's basically a floating city at sea, and you're trapped with a bunch of other zombies. There's like nowhere to go.
Yeah. All it takes is one person. All it takes is one thing to go wrong.
Yeah. And you could be a carrier and not know it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I sent in a viewer listener question.
You did.
Yes.
And I still have it.
Do we want to spoil it, or are you doing that for the next one?
I think I played it in an episode, didn't I?
I don't remember.
But that's one of the things about using Anchor FM is that you can send in like voicemail questions questions to the or suggestions or whatever comments to the host, and they can actually play it in the episode. So we still have yet to record part 2.
I did like a weird voice on that one too.
You did. It was like an Uber like an Uber nerdy voice.
Yeah, like I was thinking like Dungeons and Dragons, like the. But wait a minute, sir.
Nasally.
Wait a minute, sir.
Yeah.
Had you considered this?
Actually.
That's what I was like trying to go for.
Yeah.
And do you want to? Did you already do it? Can I talk about it?
Yeah. No, you can talk about it.
Okay, so like I was thinking, let's put Tyson in a chicken farm.
Yeah.
Tyson's chickens.
Tyson's chicken.
And I was thinking, like, what do? You come across a bunch of foul, zombified chickens.
Yeah.
How do you survive that?
Chickens are fast, man.
I'm telling you. I mean, did you ever see Rocky? You ever see him trying to chase the chicken in that scene with Rocky?
I don't want to say it, but honestly, no, I've never seen Rocky. I've seen like parts of the Rocky movies. Like,
Josh.
Yeah, there's a ton of movies.
At least watch the original Rocky, and then if you don't watch any of the other ones, watch Rocky 4. Rocky 1 and Rocky 4. Those are the two.
It's like they're like all of those movies, like Rocky, like Rambo. I've seen only parts of Rambo and all that stuff. Like
These darn millennials.
What did I just watch the other day? It was like Taxi Driver.
Oh yeah, that's
I think I watched it because Scorsese and all the things he was saying about Marvel movies.
I am so conflicted with that too. Talking about that because A, B, C, 1, 2, 3. The critics are going to be critics, and they have their own credentials.
Yeah.
Okay. You can't argue with the numbers, though.
Yeah.
You can't argue with the box office numbers.
See, that's the thing. I don't think he's saying that. Like, it's not a box office, like, blockbuster and all that. It's just that's not cinema, which, I mean, I understand.
What level of cinema?
Yeah.
I mean, is it not, the Cannes Film Festival type cinema? I mean, there's always been the film snobs in the world.
Yeah. I feel like I understand his perspective on it more than Coppola. Francis Ford Coppola, his response to it and all that was saying that they were what did he say they were? Oh, I forget, but it was not nice.
It was I don't feel like the movies were made or designed to be heavy brow, deep thinking movies. Yeah. But there's a lot of themes, a lot of human condition themes that go throughout the movies. Like when Thor's like, his mom gives him his hammer back. Mm-hmm. He's like, I'm still worthy.
Spoilers, dude. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, like
it's been out forever.
Yeah. But I was like, oh man, your mom's always gonna believe in you.
Yeah.
And she knew off the bat, like that was like, she knew that was him.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, I know my son.
Yeah.
I was like, oh man, that's so, that's so true.
Yeah.
And and she delivers back what he thought was missing and why he wasn't worthy is he had lost his hammer.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, that's so deep. But anyway, so I like artistic stuff, I really do, but I also like slapstick humor. I like mindless humor like that where it's just kind of let me just enjoy the day type thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, people said the same thing about Star Wars when Star Wars came out. Like it was like it was the first giant blockbuster, like popcorn flick. Like they critics would say that it wasn't that great, but I mean, look what Star Wars has done and what it's changed.
They let Lucas keep the rights and the licensing rights because they didn't believe in it.
Yeah,
and look at it now.
Yeah.
I mean, didn't he sell it for like over $4 billion or something like that to Disney?
Yeah, I think it was.
And Disney's made a lot more than that back already.
Yeah.
So,
but that's, I mean, like going back to like it not being a cinema in quotations. I just did finger quotes for those of you listening. And
they were actually the capitalized finger quotes.
Yeah,
they were the bold capitalized italic ones.
Like Star Wars, like for me, even like in my writing, like that was such a fundamental part of me creating the story. All the way up to like where I had planned my trilogy for the first one to be kind of like the basis of everything, and for it to kind of build up into this second darker book, and then for the third one everything to kind of come back full circle. And that's how I've set up my trilogy. And then the funny thing, going back to Jessica Brody's book, Save the Cat writes a novel, and the story beats of
and
Save
you're a
the
convert.
Cat.
You were converted.
Yeah,
you love it now.
Like, I was hesitant to buy another writing book just because it's very easy to get into, like, especially like authors,
lose
writers.
Your voice.
Well, that, and then like just to keep reading writing books and not write.
Oh,
and
gosh,
I barely have time to write. Like I don't want to add like one more thing on it, but I know you suggested it. I listened to her episode of the show and all that. So
I have been a huge advocate of it since. And I read, actually Blake Snyder's book, Save the Cat. I actually kind of did what she was doing with my writing, with just not the beats part, but like, he talks about if you don't have a poster, you don't have a story.
Yeah.
Like if you can't tell your story to somebody in 30 seconds and them get it, you don't have a story. So hold that thought. Sebastian, do you mind playing some more for us? Speaking of epic storyline stuff, I love having Sebastian play on the show.
Yeah, it's awesome.
This is Sebastian Messer, everybody. His band is called Krieger. Awesome, Bass. Good job. Thank you. So going back to the reading yet another writing book.
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
I totally get that because, and one of the things I talk about is there are a lot of folks out there that are selling shovels and jeans to people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, back in the day with gold miners, the gold rush and all, people that made the money weren't really the miners. I mean, there were some that made it, but the majority of them didn't. The people that made the money were the people selling picks, shovels, and jeans to the, to the miners out there. Like, oh yeah, you get these, you get this shovel and you'll be able to dig that dirt a lot quicker.
Mm-hmm.
And so I get that whole thing about, not wanting to invest into another, especially you being a new dad, not new, but you still have little ones, like toddler and baby, and and it's hard, especially kind of work that we do. It's it's physical work.
Mm-hmm.
Have a spouse, and you have family, so making that time, to read. Like that's one of the reasons why I like the audiobooks is because it makes, like I can use that time.
Yeah.
But to read another book, to take it in and adopt the principles of the book.
Mm-hmm.
So what you said you listened to it, what kind of got you like, oh, okay, this is a tool that I can use for my writing kit?
I think it was just the way that she talked about the story beats and stuff like that. And it just got me interested in how basically, what made me want to buy the book, and it was kind of also a fear at the same time. It's like I want to see like how my books hold up to this formula.
Ooh, how do you feel like it did?
Yeah, and then at the same time, like I was really scared because I'm like, this is gonna make me want to rewrite everything.
Yeah.
But it actually didn't. It actually the story beats that she lays out and that from the Save the Cat formula, which are pretty. It's all stories kind of end up kind of falling this way, which is
all good stories.
Yeah, which is kind of just a natural way of like things falling, whether it's movies or books and all that stuff. That's my story. Like it's not 100% dead on, but there's a lot of things that like, oh yeah, that's that's the part where he meets this character and all that, and this part comes into it.
And then it has like it actually has a progression.
Yeah.
And it has an ending.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the cool things I like. I love. Matter of fact, spoiler alert, but she was on the show, right? And NaNoWriMo, National Novel Writing Month.
Yeah.
November 1st. Starts November 1st. Gonna have an article interviewing her, question and answer article coming out this week.
Okay.
In the Savannah More News Do Savannah. And gonna have the podcast to play with it.
Cool.
So people can listen to it and read that.
Yeah.
And she's been, she's just been a great person to work with and interview, and I just love talking with her about that writing process. She's got the same. It's not called Save the Cat Writes a Novel, but she has the same 15 beats in the Udemy, which is an online teaching course or whatever. And she has these different. I've bought all of her courses, and I've been going through them. And of the different books that I've read, that's been one of the best ones as far as laying out a strategy and a formula. And it's not saying you need to write this book in a formulaic way. It's just giving you kind of like, okay, well, this is how we build a road. This is how we build, a neighborhood. This is how we build a city, parks, trees, in the area and that kind of thing. And she gives you that, but you design the elements. It's just you use the things that are, like the framework to say, hey, this is how I'm going to structure my story. And that's one of the other reasons why I was like, oh, I like this.
Yeah.
I like organization. I like, that kind of thing. Talking about that, Word versus Scrivener. You were talking about like a lot of people try to convert you to Scrivener.
Yeah.
I know I was one of those people that was like, I love Scrivener. I had just started using it this year. I've always used Word. I've used Word forever and a day. But
like everybody has.
I like the little tools that Scrivener has.
Yeah.
Like I broke it down into the 3 acts and the different beats. Actually, I created a template for the 15 beats using Scrivener, and I like it. It's just one of those things. So, but the important thing I think is this, and I hope you agree with me. If you don't, it's no big deal. But it doesn't matter what tool you use.
Yeah.
It's the writing.
Yeah.
You could write on a pencil, paper. You could scribble on a napkin, for an idea or something like that.
Yeah. I think that was my biggest thing is like I already had like an established process that worked for me.
Yeah.
And for me to switch over to Scrivener, like I would have been, it was things that I was already doing myself.
Yeah.
Like maybe might have been a little bit more automated, but I'm a little kind of control freak when it comes to that kind of stuff anyways. So like for me, like my process is like I write my beats out on pen and paper. Yeah. Like I use a manual form of writing to do that. And for me that like just it resonates more with me.
Yep.
And then from there I'll go to writing the first draft in Word, and then from that point I'll print it off. I'll go to the local library, print it all off, and then I'll edit on that, and then it goes back into the computer. And like it's this back and forth process for me, but it puts it in my hands. It's not just reading it off the screen, which sometimes it's easier to scan over things when you're reading on screens. So when I put it on paper, I read it out loud. I just try to incorporate all the senses that I can into it, and it makes it more real for me. Where like if I were using Scrivener, all of that would be still in the computer.
It's digital.
Yeah, so like I need that back and forth.
I like the tactile feeling of pen and paper. I've always liked to draw and stuff like that. Check this out. This Writer's Workshop of Horror. I just picked up that book. It came in the mail yesterday.
Yeah.
Rachel Brune was reading it, and the first one I read out of there was and here's the other one. The other one I picked up was called On Writing Horror.
Yeah.
But there's an interview in there of Clive Barker.
Okay.
Hellraiser. And he does not type. He does not like typing at all. And he writes everything out by hand. And then he has a transcriptionist, type it up. And then it goes through, like, I think he said, like, 4 drafts or something like that.
Yeah.
And so I think the point is for everybody, it's just that it doesn't matter what works for you. I mean, ultimately, you're going to have a typed copy.
Yeah.
It's going to have to be a Word copy or a document copy or a PDF or something like that to get it published. But the drafts and stuff like that, you can write it all out by hand if you want to. You could do whatever you want. I mean, like, whatever works for you is the key, really.
Yeah. I think, like, the way I worded it on the podcast when I was talking about it is, like, you can have, like, a bright new shiny sword, but not know how to use it.
Yeah.
Where you could have your faithful, trusty sword that you know how to use with your eyes closed kind of deal. And that's just how I
hack a little bit more, but you got, and that's the weird thing about typing. It's like I can type and I can type and I can type, but there's just something about writing it out by hand. That's what I did with this the Blood Thresher outline. Like, so after I used the 15 beats for the first time, actually I used the 15 beats for the first time with that Wrong Turn story that's in that anthology with Rachel Brune, and I typed that up. I used Scrivener for that, used all that. When I was rebooting Blood Thresher, the follow-up to the Devils in the Metal, I've started that 3 times this year. I've written over 30,000 words this year.
Yeah.
3 different times. Not 30,000 words times 3, but 10,000, 10,000, or 10,000. 30,000 about total.
Yeah.
And I've rebooted it, and so now I was like, okay, like you were talking about, am I going to have to change everything?
Yeah.
I went back and I've written the outline in a notebook, and I said, okay, I'm going to challenge myself to do this NaNoWriMo for the first time ever. Yeah. And that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I have never done NaNoWriMo before. I usually, this year was the first year I joined like a serious writing group. I say serious because it just was more than like, hey, let's just talk about it. Yeah. We actually were working on projects and stuff like that. And that was one of the things I failed at. My goal was to write a novel, 60,000 word novel, in 90 days. Yeah. And I didn't do it. I wrote I wrote it and wrote it and wrote it, and then about the same time as when I came across the bless you, Sebastian. Same time as like I came across the Save the Cat Writes a Novel.
Yeah.
And I had to change course. You know, so I was like, it's been a big learning curve for me this year.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like I'm a better author.
Yeah.
I feel like you know, I have grown a lot this year compared to last year when I first put out my first fiction novel.
Yeah.
So how do you feel like you've changed over the last 5 or 6 years that you've had your first story out?
Let's see. I guess like the biggest thing would be like the funny thing about it is because like when I published A New Death in 2013 October, like it was my first like completed book. Like I had written stuff before then, but it was like the first thing that I ever completed. And
you had not to sidebar, but you had like a movie script based, like this is kind of based off of a movie script that you did in high school, right? Or that like you had started in high school or something.
Yeah. I mean, to bring like the whole like everything back full circle.
Yeah.
With
this is digging deep, everybody. Like this is like going like AB to the deep on Josh Vasquez.
So like,
and I know I might know a little bit more than other people because we've talked a lot over the years.
Yeah.
But I want to kind of share like this, you know, some of the nooks and crannies that other people might not know.
Yeah. So like on like my podcast and like on this episode right here, like we've talked about like movies and we've talked about, you know, what Scorsese thinks about the MCU, and talked about Star Wars and how, you know, people like critics gave it a hard time when it came out. But like for me, like movies, cinema, are so intertwined with my writing.
Yeah.
Because for me, A New Death started out as a zombie movie that I wanted to make in high school with a buddy.
Yeah.
We just wanted to make a low budget zombie movie because we thought it'd be fun. We love zombie movies. This is back before they were cool, 2006. This is like before like Left 4 Dead came out. This is like Resident Evil had been out and all that stuff, but like it wasn't anything like where zombies like have been. So we wanted to make this low budget movie. So I wrote out this outline for it. I actually wrote 2 outlines with different alternate endings and just different scenes in different places to give us like kind of options as we filmed it. We could kind of just put it together different ways. And then I wrote like the first few pages of script, and we just that's as far as it went because we had no money. But the whole reason I got like wanting
and everybody, let me just interrupt here.
Good.
Because people are so used to the smartphones that are able to do everything now, right? You've got a video camera, you've got a high-res camera.
Yeah.
You have a sound recorder. You have all of the things that you need on a smartphone to make a movie now. Mm-hmm. But we're talking about really mainstream internet.
I believe the phone of the year was the Razr, the Motorola Razr, which is like, it was just notoriously known for being really thin.
Yeah, and we're talking about like mainstream internet. Yeah. We're talking about way before smartphones.
Yeah.
So these tools were expensive and they weren't readily available to people.
Yeah.
You know, and
our biggest debate when we were thinking about making it was, are we going to shoot on film or are we going to shoot on a digital format?
Yeah.
And at that time, digital format didn't mean just like recording it to like a digital file on your camera.
Oh, it was expensive back then.
It meant like a digital tape.
Expensive.
Like it was just it's just basically, it wasn't film. It was like a little tiny VHS tape. And so like that was our biggest
like
thing.
8mm tape or whatever. We used to have one of those Sony like that.
Yeah, that was one of our biggest things. Is like, so are we going to do this on film and it's going to actually look like a movie, or are we going to do this on digital because it's cheaper and we don't have any money?
And the digital quality back then was, I mean, like, you know, Toy Story, the original Toy Story, I think came out like 95 or 96.
It's 94.
94.
Yes.
Okay.
I only remember that because my stepdad took me to go see Toy Story when my mom was at a doctor's appointment for my younger brother.
Wow. Okay, so that was like one of the first breakthrough digital CGI type movies.
Yeah.
And then The Matrix, the series with The Matrix, that was like all the digital effects and stuff like that. But we're talking about like there wasn't access to everybody. Everybody wasn't able to get like an app and download, like whatever.
Yeah, we were thinking about going to Goodwill and trying to find a camera. That's what we were doing.
Yeah. So I like to preface that because I know it's like, oh, we're so old. We're not really old.
Yeah.
And I'm older than you, but we're talking about the same time frame, and how technology has just leaps and bounds ahead in the last 10, 15 years, especially with smartphones.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just ridiculous. If you've got the
like
work,
13 years ago.
Yeah, if you've got the work ethic, you could do pretty much anything you want.
Mm-hmm.
If YouTube, I mean, YouTube back then, Josh, how did you even, like, what were you looking up to try to find out how to write a script? Were you going to the library?
So I found a book at Barnes & Noble.
Yeah.
And it was titled "How to Make a Feature Film for Under $10,000 and Not Go to Jail." And that is one of the, like, it's a weird thing that like this is what helped, one of the things that helped start my writing journey. But that was it. It was that book that's like, here, you can make a feature film under $10,000 and not go to jail. And like, it basically, he just sets up the basics of filmmaking and all that, and story and act 1, 2, and 3. And from that, I was like, all right, we can actually do this. Like, we can make a short movie. And it's just, we just didn't have the means to go about doing it. So it sat dormant. But the things that I learned in that book came over into my writing and came over into me writing the Savannah zombie novel series.
Awesome. We're going to take a little break and stay tuned. Come back at the 4 o'clock hour where we're going to do the second hour with Savannah zombie novel series author Josh Vasquez.
The Live Oak Public Library System offers local residents access to hundreds of thousands of movies,